Hello and welcome. Before we begin tonight's story, there's something that would be really lovely to know. If you feel like it, leave a comment and share where you're watching from tonight. What city, what country, what time it is where you are. It's one of the quiet joys of making these stories, knowing that somewhere out there, someone in Tokyo is listening at 4 a.m, and someone in Buenos Aires is listening just after midnight, and someone in a small town in Germany is listening at the end of a long, rainy Tuesday. You are all welcome here. You are all part of this little gathering. So if you feel like it, leave your city in the comments, and tonight's story will reach a few more quiet corners of the world. Now settle in, get comfortable, pull the blanket up a little higher if you'd like. Close your eyes if your eyes are ready to be closed. There's nothing you need to do tonight, nowhere you need to be, no one who needs anything from you. Tonight is just for resting. Tonight is just for letting go of the day. Slowly, softly, the way the rain lets go of the clouds and falls gently toward the earth. Tonight's story is about a place, a small, quiet old diner somewhere on a forgotten stretch of a highway. The diner doesn't have a name you would recognize. It doesn't appear on any map that matters. It's just there, the way some places are just there. A small wooden building with a neon sign and a few parking spaces out front, and a window that glows warmly in the dark. The kind of place that has been in the same spot for 50 years, maybe longer. The kind of place where the coffee is always hot and the booths are always empty enough and the light is always soft enough to rest your eyes in. The diner is on an old 2-lane road that used to be busier. Decades ago, before the interstate was built a few miles to the south, this road carried every traveler heading east or west through this part of the country. Truckers, families, bikers, salesmen, couples on their honeymoons, all of them passed through here. All of them stopped at this diner at one time or another. And even though the traffic faded when the new highway was built, the diner kept its doors open. It kept its coffee hot. It kept its lights on. Because some places refuse to disappear. Some places stay quietly, patiently, waiting for the few travelers who still take the old roads. Tonight is a rainy night, not a storm, not a downpour, just the kind of slow, steady, patient rain that seems like it could go on forever without getting tired. The kind of rain that makes a soft, hissing sound on a paved road. The kind of rain that taps gently on the tin roof of a small building and makes everyone inside feel a little safer, a little warmer, a little more grateful to be exactly where they are. Imagine the diner from a distance first. Imagine standing on the side of the old road, a few hundred feet away, looking at the little building through the rain. The diner is a simple structure, a single story. Wooden walls painted a soft, faded white, darkened by years of weather and smoke and sunshine. A flat roof with slightly sloped edges. 6 small windows along the front, each one warmly lit from inside, glowing yellow against the cool blue-black of the wet night. A narrow wooden porch runs along the front of the building, with a few worn boards that creak when you step on them. There's a long counter visible through the windows, and the shape of a few booths, and the slow movement of someone inside. Maybe a waitress, maybe a cook, maybe just a shadow passing in front of a lamp. Above the door, there's a small neon sign. It's the kind of neon sign that was probably put up in the 1950s and has been repaired a few dozen times since then. 3 simple words, written in cursive: Millie's Diner. The first M flickers faintly every now and then, not broken, just tired. The neon glows a soft pink red in the rain, throwing gentle colored light onto the wet pavement in front of the building and onto the windshield of an old pickup truck parked near the door. The parking lot is almost empty. Just the pickup truck, and a little farther down, tucked under a wooden overhang, meant to keep the worst of the rain off, a motorcycle. A young cruiser. Not new, not old, just well-loved. Its chrome is beaded with tiny drops of water. Its leather seat is covered by a small weatherproof tarp that its owner carefully tied down before coming inside. The motorcycle sits quietly in the soft light of a single bare bulb hanging from the roof of the overhang, the filament glowing a warm orange against the dark, wet night. The rain keeps falling, steady, unhurried, soft. You can hear it in the way it hits the tin roof of the diner. 1,000 tiny taps, all of them slightly different, all of them blending together into one long, continuous whisper. You can hear it in the way it runs down the windows of the diner, tracing slow silver paths through the soft yellow light. You can hear it in the way it splashes quietly in the small puddles that have formed in the low spots of the parking lot, making little rings expand and fade and expand and fade. There is no wind. The rain is falling straight down. Each drop moves in a simple, patient line from the clouds above all the way down to the earth, without hurry, without drama, without any sense of urgency at all. The whole world feels like it has slowed down to match the pace of the rain. Far in the distance, almost at the edge of hearing, you can catch the sound of a freight train. Not close, not passing through. Just somewhere out there, on the railroad tracks that run through the countryside a few miles to the north. The train is blowing its horn at a crossing, and the sound reaches you faintly, softened by the distance and the rain. A long, low, kind note that rises and falls and fades. The sound of a train horn in the rain is one of the most peaceful sounds in the world. It has been a peaceful sound for as long as trains have existed. Tonight, it drifts through the wet night air and curls around the little diner and disappears somewhere behind the trees at the back of the property. A few moments later, there's another sound. A small, soft, muffled sound from inside the diner. A piece of music starting up. It's coming from an old jukebox in the corner, by the counter. Someone has put a coin in. The song is a slow country ballad from about 1960. A man's voice, warm and soft, and a little bit rough, singing about a long drive on a rainy night. A steel guitar, whining gently underneath the voice. A quiet brushed drum rhythm, keeping the slowest possible time. The music drifts out through the thin windows of the diner and mixes with the sound of the rain on the roof and the distant memory of the train horn. Together, they make a small, quiet music of their own. A music of a specific place, on a specific night, in a world where nothing particularly important is happening and everything particularly peaceful is. Inside the diner, there are only a handful of people, but we'll get to them slowly. Tonight is not a night for hurrying. Tonight is a night for letting every small detail of this small place reveal itself at its own pace. For now, the diner sits quietly in the rain, Its windows glow. Its neon sign flickers gently. The pickup truck sits outside. The motorcycle waits patiently under its overhang. The tin roof taps out its long, soft rhythm. The distant train finishes its horn and rolls away into the night. The jukebox plays its old, slow song, and the whole small corner of the world settles into the kind of quiet that only exists on certain rainy nights, in certain forgotten places, at certain hours when most of the world has already gone to sleep. The rain keeps falling. The neon keeps glowing. The music keeps playing very softly inside the little building on the side of the road. Inside, the air is warm, warmer than you might expect from a place this old. There's a small gas heater in the back corner that clicks on every few minutes, humming quietly as it pushes warm air into the room. The windows are slightly fogged from the contrast between the cold, rainy outside and the warm, cozy inside. And the fog makes the warm yellow light seem even softer, even gentler, like it's being filtered through a thin layer of cotton. The smell inside the diner is a smell that only old diners have. It's a smell that is impossible to describe, but impossible to forget. Coffee, first of all. Always coffee. A deep, rich, constant smell of coffee that has been brewing and rebrewing and being kept warm for decades. Underneath the coffee, there's the smell of toast, butter, a faint trace of bacon from earlier in the evening when someone had a late dinner. There's the smell of an old pie warmer on the counter, where 2 pies, 1 apple, 1 cherry, sit in slices under a glass dome, keeping themselves faintly warm. There's the smell of old wood from the floors, which have been polished and walked on so many times that they have developed their own quiet personality. And under everything, there's the faintest smell of rain coming in through the front door whenever someone opens it, bringing the clean, wet cold of the outside world into the warm, dry inside. The lighting inside the diner is gentle. A few hanging pendant lamps over the counter, each one with a small glass shade that has yellowed slightly with age. A long neon strip in the kitchen doorway that hums very quietly. A soft bulb in each of the booths, mounted on the wall above the table, giving each booth its own small pool of warm light. A single table lamp on the end of the counter near the jukebox, throwing amber light onto an open newspaper and a half-finished cup of coffee that someone left there a few minutes ago before going to the restroom. The floor is checkered. Small black and white tiles, arranged in a pattern that has been walked over so many times that the white tiles have taken on a faint cream color, and the black tiles have taken on a soft gray color, and the corners of the room are slightly darker than the middle. The floor creaks very faintly when anyone walks on it, in certain places. Near the kitchen door, and near the booth at the very back. The counter is long, maybe 15 seats at it, all of them empty right now, except for one at the far end, where an older man is sitting quietly, drinking a cup of coffee and reading a small paperback book. The counter itself is made of a cream-colored laminate with a thin chrome border, the kind of counter that was installed in diners all across America in the late 1950s, and has somehow survived in a few places, like this one, by being loved and polished and cared for by the people who own it. There are small chrome napkin dispensers along the counter, one every 3 or 4 seats, each one full of thin white paper napkins. There are sugar canisters with little metal pour spouts, there are small ceramic cups for cream, kept cold in a small refrigerated compartment behind the counter. There are old plastic-handled salt and pepper shakers. Every small detail has been in exactly the same place for so many years that the counter remembers where everything goes without anyone needing to think about it. Behind the counter, the back wall holds a long mirror that runs almost the entire length of the room. In front of the mirror, on narrow wooden shelves, are rows of thick, white ceramic coffee mugs, the kind of mugs that have been used in American diners since the 1940s. Heavy and warm in your hands, with a little ring around the base where the glaze was held by the kiln when they were fired. Next to the mugs are stacks of small plates for pie. Next to the plates are glass cake stands, empty right now, just waiting for the morning baking. Next to those is an old brass cash register, the real kind from before computers, with the big round brass keys and the little drawer that rings a small bell when it pops open. The booths are along the opposite wall, 4 of them, each one upholstered in a soft red vinyl, the color of a faded rose, with a chrome trim running along the top of each seat back. The tables are the same cream laminate as the counter, with the same thin chrome border. Each table has a little menu card stuck between the salt and pepper shakers, handwritten in someone's careful cursive, listing the specials for the week. Meatloaf, chicken pot pie, biscuits and gravy, open-faced turkey sandwich, pie by the slice. The menu hasn't changed much in the last 30 years. No one who comes here wants it to change. The walls of the diner are decorated with things that have been accumulating for decades. Old framed photographs of travelers and regulars. A black and white picture of the original owner, Millie herself, standing in front of the diner in 1962, wearing a white apron and smiling at the camera. A faded color photograph from the 1970s, showing a row of motorcycles parked out front on a sunny summer afternoon, with a dozen bikers smiling at the camera with their helmets resting on their tanks. A calendar from a local feed store turned to the current month with someone's small pencil notes in a few of the squares. A hand-painted wooden sign that says, "We're glad you're here," hanging behind the counter at a slight angle. A few old license plates nailed to the wall near the door. License plates from travelers who left them as gifts over the years, from states as far away as Vermont and Oregon and Alaska. And in the corner, near the front window, sits the jukebox. It's an old Wurlitzer from 1958. It has the classic arched top, the glowing bubble tubes running up the sides, the soft red and yellow and green lights inside the main panel where the records are displayed. The records are all 45s from the 1950s and 1960s. Country, early rock and roll, some soft standards from the 1940s. Someone has put a quarter in it just a few minutes ago, and right now it is playing a song by a man named Marty Robbins, who had a voice like warm honey and sang songs about long roads and sad horses and the beauty of small towns. The song is slow. The steel guitar is doing most of the work. The man is singing quietly about how the rain reminds him of someone he used to know and how he wouldn't have it any other way. All of this, the lights, the smells, the sounds, the details, the quiet accumulation of decades of being a certain kind of place, All of it together makes the diner feel like a small pocket of warmth carved out of the cold, wet night. A small, brightly lit room in the middle of a dark, wet world. A place that holds you and asks nothing from you. A place where you can sit in a corner booth and drink a cup of coffee and watch the rain through the window and feel for a little while that nothing in the whole world is wrong and nothing needs to be fixed and nothing is your responsibility. The rain keeps falling outside. The neon keeps flickering faintly on the first letter of the word, Millie's. The old jukebox keeps playing its slow song. And the people inside the diner go on about their quiet night, each one of them moving at their own soft pace. None of them hurrying, none of them worried about anything in particular. For now, the scene is set. The old diner, warm and glowing, in the middle of a cold, rainy night on a forgotten road. A place where nothing important is about to happen, and nothing important has happened in a long time. And nothing important needs to happen, because the absence of important things is exactly what makes this place so perfectly, beautifully restful. Stay here for a little while. Let the sound of the rain settle into you. Let the warmth of the diner begin to wrap itself around you. Let the soft amber lights and the old jukebox music and the distant train horn all become part of the same slow, quiet, patient world that you're sinking into tonight. There's more to come. There's a waitress named Dolores who has worked here for 31 years. There's a cook in the back named Carl who moves with the slow, deliberate care of a man who has fried eggs the same way for most of his life. There's the biker at the back booth who came in out of the rain a little while ago and hasn't said much. There's the old man at the counter with the paperback book. There are one or two other quiet visitors who will drift in through the door later, shaking off the rain, nodding at Dolores, settling into their own small corners of the night. But all of that will come slowly. There's no rush. The diner has all the time in the world. The rain has all the time in the world. You have all the time in the world. Rest now. Just rest. Let the rain keep falling outside the diner. Let the warm yellow lights hold you. Let the smell of coffee fill the small warm room of your imagination. Let the slow old jukebox play its low old song. You are safe here. The night is long, and nothing at all is asking anything of you. The rain keeps falling outside. The tin roof keeps tapping softly. The old Wurlitzer jukebox in the corner has finished its song, and for a moment there is only the hum of the gas heater and the sound of rain on the windows. And then the jukebox clicks quietly and starts another song. A slow instrumental this time. Just a steel guitar and a soft piano and a barely there drum. The kind of music that was made in Nashville in 1961 for people to listen to at 3 a.m. in small places like this one. Behind the long cream-colored counter, a woman is moving slowly. Her name is Dolores. She has worked at this diner for 31 years. She started here when she was 24 years old. A young woman who needed a job after moving to this part of the country with her husband, who worked for a lumber company that no longer exists. Her husband has been gone for a long time now, almost 15 years. And the lumber company has been gone almost as long. But the diner is still here, and Dolores is still here. And somewhere in the quiet arithmetic of her life, the diner has become more than a job and has become something closer to a second home. Dolores is in her mid-50s. Her hair is a soft silver gray, worn in a simple loose bun at the back of her head, held in place with a pair of small wooden pins. She wears a white apron over a pale blue dress, the kind of dress that was called a uniform in most diners 50 years ago, and is still called a uniform here, because Dolores likes uniforms. She likes knowing what she's going to wear. She likes the simple comfort of reaching into her closet every morning and not having to think. Her apron has 2 deep pockets in the front, and in those pockets, right now, there is a small order pad, a black ballpoint pen, a few wrapped peppermint candies that she offers to children, and sometimes to tired truckers, and a soft folded handkerchief that used to belong to her husband. Her hands are moving slowly over the counter. She's wiping it down with a soft white cloth. The counter was already clean. It's always clean. But Dolores wipes it down every 15 or 20 minutes anyway, because wiping down the counter is something to do, and something to do is always welcome when the diner is quiet. She moves in long, easy circles, guiding the cloth around the chrome napkin dispensers, around the sugar canisters, around the ceramic cream cups. Her movements are efficient without being rushed. She's been doing this for 31 years. Her body knows exactly how much pressure to put on the cloth. Her wrist knows exactly which angle makes the chrome shine the way she likes it to shine. When she finishes a stretch of the counter, she stops and looks at it for a moment, the way a painter might look at a canvas. She tilts her head slightly. She adjusts the angle of one of the napkin dispensers by a fraction of an inch. Then she moves on to the next stretch. As she works, she hums softly, almost below the threshold of hearing. The tune is an old one, a song her mother used to sing to her when she was a child, decades ago, in a small kitchen, in a small town far from here. Dolores doesn't really remember the words anymore, just the melody, and she hums it to herself, slowly, not on purpose, while her hands move along the counter. The humming blends with the sound of the jukebox and the sound of the rain, and the distant soft clatter of the cook in the back, and together they make a kind of quiet song that only exists inside this diner on this night, and will never exist again. On the counter in front of her, the old coffee pot is sitting on the warmer. The pot is glass with a brown plastic handle, and there is maybe 2/3 of a pot of coffee inside it. The dark surface of the liquid still and smooth. The warmer is on its lowest setting. The coffee has been in the pot for about 20 minutes, which is exactly long enough to be perfect and exactly short enough that Dolores hasn't started a new pot yet. She glances at it every few minutes, the way a shepherd glances at her sheep. She knows exactly how long each pot can sit before it needs to be replaced. It's another one of those small numbers that her body has memorized so thoroughly that she doesn't have to think about it anymore. Behind her, the long mirror on the back wall reflects the diner back at itself. In the mirror, you can see the row of red booths along the opposite wall, the checkered floor, the hanging pendant lamps, the front windows with their slow silver rivers of rain, the neon sign outside casting its soft pink light back into the room from the other side of the glass. The mirror makes the diner feel a little bigger than it actually is, a little quieter somehow. A little more like a place where a person could disappear into their own thoughts for a while without anyone minding. The cash register at the end of the counter is an old brass model from the 1950s. It doesn't ring up a tax automatically. It doesn't connect to any computer. It just has a small drawer that pops open when Dolores presses the big round keys, and a little bell that rings a single soft note when the drawer opens. Dolores likes the bell. She has always liked the bell. There is something about a bell that rings once, clearly, when money changes hands, that feels more honest and more ceremonial than any digital beep from any modern machine. When she rings someone up, she does it slowly, one key at a time, listening to the small clicks of the mechanism inside. When the drawer pops open, she takes their cash or their change with her left hand and hands them their receipt with her right hand. And always, always, she says, "Thank you, honey," because that's just how she talks to people. And she means it every single time. Dolores finishes wiping down the counter. She folds the cloth neatly and sets it on the shelf under the counter where she always keeps it. She takes a step back and looks around the diner. She's not really checking anything. She's just looking. She's making sure the room still feels like itself. She's listening to the rain. She's looking at the way the yellow light of the pendant lamps catches the rim of the sugar canisters. She's watching the reflection of the jukebox in the window by the door. Everything is as it should be. She reaches under the counter and takes out a small ceramic bowl of fresh lemons, 4 of them. Dolores buys lemons every few days from a produce stand at the edge of town, and every shift she cuts a few of them into quarters and keeps them in the refrigerated case under the counter. She likes having fresh lemon on hand for anyone who wants a squeeze in their tea or their water. The lemons are bright yellow in the bowl. She pulls out a small wooden cutting board and a paring knife. She begins to cut the lemons slowly, methodically, 1 quarter at a time. The smell of fresh lemon lifts into the air around her. Clean and bright, mixing with the smell of coffee and the smell of the rain that drifts in whenever the front door opens. It's a small, good smell. The kind of smell that makes a room feel tended. While she cuts the lemons, she thinks about very small things. She thinks about how the delivery of bread didn't come in this morning, so she'll need to make some calls tomorrow about that. She thinks about how the old woman who lives down the road from the diner dropped off a jar of homemade blackberry jam yesterday, and she should remember to send her a thank you note. She thinks about how the little fluorescent light in the bathroom has been flickering for a week, and she should probably ask someone to replace the bulb. None of these thoughts are stressful. They just drift through her mind, like leaves drifting down a slow creek. She acknowledges each one and lets it drift on. She cuts the last lemon and sets the quarters neatly in the bowl. She puts the cutting board and the knife in the small sink behind the counter. She runs warm water over them and rinses them gently and sets them on a wooden rack to dry. Her movements are the movements of someone who has been doing the same things in the same order for 3 decades. There is something deeply peaceful about watching a person do something they know perfectly. There's no hesitation. There's no waste. Every motion fits inside every other motion, like pieces of a puzzle that has been solved 1,000 times. At the far end of the counter, the older man with a paperback book takes a slow sip of his coffee and turns a page. He doesn't look up. He's been here for about an hour, sipping the same cup slowly, reading his book, not asking for anything. Dolores has refilled his coffee twice without him asking, because she knows the signs. She knows when a man wants a refill, and when he just wants to be left alone. Right now he's just reading, and she just lets him. He's wearing a gray flannel shirt and a pair of old denim pants. His hair is white. His reading glasses are perched halfway down his nose. He looks completely content. Dolores walks slowly down the counter toward him. She doesn't say anything. She just lifts the coffee pot from the warmer, walks the 3 or 4 steps to where he's sitting, and gently tips the pot over his cup. He nods once, without looking up from his book. The dark coffee flows slowly into the thick, white mug. Steam curls up from the surface. Dolores straightens up. She walks back to the warmer and sets the pot down. The whole exchange took about 15 seconds and involved no words and left both of them perfectly at ease. This is one of the quiet beauties of a place like this. Not everyone who comes here wants to talk. Not everyone wants to be noticed. Some people come here to be alone in company, to sit in a warm room with other human beings nearby, without any of those human beings expecting anything from them. Dolores understands this better than most people who have ever lived. She has spent 31 years learning the difference between a person who wants a conversation and a person who wants a silence with coffee in it. She knows exactly what to offer each one. She walks over to the small radio on the shelf behind the counter. The radio is the kind of old tabletop radio that was popular in the 1970s. Wooden frame, beige speaker cloth, a single large dial for tuning. It's almost always tuned to a low country station out of a town about 40 miles to the east. Right now it's not on because the jukebox is doing the work. But Dolores touches the top of the radio gently as she passes it, the way you might touch the head of an old dog just to say hello. She moves over to the pie warmer at the center of the counter. The pie warmer is a domed glass case with a small heating element in the base that keeps the pies inside at a gentle, never too hot temperature. Tonight there are 2 pies in the case, apple and cherry. Both of them from the local woman named Margaret, who bakes pies twice a week and sells them to the diner and to 2 other small restaurants within 30 miles. Margaret's pies are famous among people who eat pies for a living. The crust is flaky. The filling is just sweet enough. The apples are cut thick. The cherries are sour sweet and glossy under their golden lattice top. Dolores doesn't need to look at the pies to know what they look like. She has served hundreds of slices of Margaret's pies over the last decade. But she looks at them anyway, because looking at them is a small pleasure. And the small pleasures are the currency of a slow night at a good diner. She takes a slice of the apple pie out of the case. She puts it on a small white plate. She sets the plate on the counter near the old man with the book. He glances up this time, briefly. She says very softly, "I made too many pieces earlier. Enjoy it." She knows this isn't true. She cut it just for him, but she says it this way so he won't feel obligated, so he won't feel like he owes her anything, so he'll feel like the pie just happened to appear in front of him the way pleasant things sometimes just happen to appear in the world. The old man looks at the pie, looks at her, smiles, slowly, the the way older men smile when they are moved by a small kindness they weren't expecting. "Thank you, Dolores," he says. His voice is soft and gravelly and warm. "You're welcome, Henry," she says, and she walks back to the other end of the counter. Henry takes a slow bite of the pie. His eyes close for a moment. He chews slowly. He takes a sip of coffee. He goes back to his book. The rain keeps falling outside. The jukebox finishes its slow instrumental and starts up another song. An old Patsy Cline recording. A woman's voice floating over a gentle orchestra, singing about falling to pieces the slowest possible way. Patsy's voice in this diner at this hour is one of the most perfect things in the world. It fills the room without overwhelming it. It carries a little sadness in it, but the sadness is the kind of sadness that feels like a warm bath. Something you sink into willingly. Something that washes you clean without hurting you. Dolores reaches into the pocket of her apron and pulls out the small paperback notebook she keeps for inventory. She flips it open to the current page. She writes, in her small, careful handwriting, "Lemons cut and pie, apple slice for H." She keeps track of these small things the way she always has. The notebook is half full. The notes go back almost 3 months. When the notebook is full, she'll start a new one. And she'll put the old one in a box under the counter with all the others. There are a lot of notebooks in that box. Stacks of them. Years of them. She closes the notebook and puts it back in her pocket. She walks to the end of the counter closest to the front door. There's a small window in the side wall here that looks directly out at the parking lot. Dolores stands at the window for a minute, looking out at the rain. She can see the motorcycle under the wooden overhang, its chrome dim under the single bare bulb. She can see the pickup truck, its windshield dotted with raindrops. She can see the neon sign above the door reflecting its soft pink glow onto the wet pavement. She can see, in the distance, the dark line of trees on the far side of the parking lot. Beyond those trees, the old road continues into the night in both directions. She watches the rain for a minute. She doesn't think about anything in particular. She just watches. Then she turns and walks back to the counter. She opens a small drawer and takes out a soft cloth and a small bottle of chrome polish. She pours a tiny amount of polish onto the cloth. She walks over to the old Wurlitzer jukebox in the corner and slowly, gently, begins to polish the chrome trim around its arched top. She's been polishing this jukebox about once a week for the last 31 years. The chrome still looks brand new because she has never let it get dirty in the first place. She polishes slowly, in small circles, watching the metal come alive under her hand. As she polishes, the jukebox plays Patsy Cline underneath her fingers. It's a funny feeling. The music is coming out of the thing she is polishing. The vibrations of the song are coming up through the cloth into her palm. She can feel the bass notes gently thumping under her fingers. She can feel the steel guitar shimmering up through the wood. She closes her eyes for a second and just feels the music move through her. Then she opens her eyes and goes back to polishing. This is the slow ceremony of a Tuesday night at Millie's diner. Nothing important is happening. Nothing important has happened in a long time. And yet a great deal is happening. A woman is polishing a jukebox. A man is eating a slice of pie. A fire is burning softly in the gas heater. A coffee pot is waiting patiently on a warmer. The rain is writing silver lines down the windows. The neon sign is flickering on its first letter. The cook in the back is starting to wash some dishes. The biker at the back booth, whom we have not met yet, is sitting quietly with his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee. All of these small things are happening at the same time, in the same small warm room, and none of them's in any hurry, and none of them is asking for attention, and none of them is trying to be anything more than what it is. And somehow, all of them together become one of the most peaceful scenes in the world. After a while, Dolores finishes polishing the jukebox. She stands back and looks at it. The chrome reflects the pendant lamp above her, catching the soft yellow light and throwing it back in a long, curved arc. The bubble tubes on the sides of the jukebox are glowing, as they always do when the machine is on. A slow, steady bubbling of soft-colored liquid that rises up the glass tubes like a lazy dream. Red, yellow, orange. Each bubble takes its time. Each bubble is in no hurry to reach the top. She watches them for a moment. She used to watch them the same way when she was much younger. Decades ago, when she first started working here. When the bubbles in the tubes were one of the first things about the diner that made her feel like this was a place where she belonged. She turns away from the jukebox and walks back to the counter. She refills her own small cup of coffee, an old chipped mug with a faded picture of a sunflower on it. Her personal mug, kept on a specific shelf behind the counter just for her. She adds a small splash of cream. She doesn't add sugar. She takes a slow sip. For a moment, Dolores is just a woman standing behind a counter at a diner, holding a warm cup of coffee, listening to an old song on an old jukebox, watching the rain fall outside. She is not thinking about anything important. She is not worried about anything. She is not trying to solve any problem. She is simply standing there, being exactly who she is, doing exactly what she has done every night for 31 years. The peace of that is hard to describe. It's the peace of a person who has stopped fighting her life. It's the peace of a person who has found the thing she is supposed to do and is doing it simply and well for as long as she gets to do it. Not everyone finds that. Not everyone even thinks to look for it. But Dolores found hers. She found it behind an old counter in an old diner on an old road, serving coffee and pie to strangers who come in out of the rain. And she has been quietly grateful for it every single day since. She sets down her mug. She walks slowly over to the window by the front door. She looks out one more time at the wet parking lot and the motorcycle under the overhang and the neon sign casting its soft pink light onto the pavement. She likes rainy nights. They have always been her favorite nights. There's something about a rainy night at the diner. The way it slows the world down. The way it draws the few travelers who still use the old road into the warm light of the windows. The way it makes her feel like the diner is a small lifeboat, carrying a few quiet souls across a vast, quiet sea. She walks back toward the counter, humming softly to herself. The rain keeps falling. The neon keeps flickering. The jukebox keeps playing its slow songs from another century. And somewhere in the deep quiet of the scene, you can feel the whole world letting go of a little more of its tension. You can feel the hands of the clock loosening. You can feel the boundaries of the diner expanding gently until the diner is not just a small building on a small road, but a small, warm pocket of stillness, holding everything that's listening tonight. Dolores is behind the counter. The coffee is warm. The pie is sweet. The jukebox is singing. The rain is falling. And everything for right now is exactly as it should be. Stay with the diner. Let the rain keep falling on the tin roof. Let the soft, yellow lights of the pendant lamps become a little dimmer in your vision. Let the sound of Dolores, humming her old song, fold itself into the sound of Patsy Cline on the jukebox and the sound of the rain on the roof. You are safe here. You are warm. And nothing in the whole world is asking anything of you. In the back of the diner, at the very last booth, past the jukebox, past the row of empty seats at the counter, past the small hallway that leads to the restrooms and the back door of the kitchen, there is a man sitting alone. He came in about 40 minutes ago, out of the rain, with his helmet in one hand and his gloves in the other. Dolores looked up when she heard the bell above the front door ring, the way she always looks up, and she watched him walk in slowly, shaking the water off his jacket before he crossed the threshold onto the checkered floor. She gave him a small nod. He gave her a small nod back, and then he walked quietly to the back booth, the way some people always do when they come into a place they've never been before. Heading for the furthest corner, the quietest table, the seat with the best view of the room and the door. He's in his late 50s, maybe early 60s. It's hard to tell exactly. His face has the kind of quiet weathering that comes from years of being outdoors. Not the hard lines of someone who has had a hard life, but the soft, steady creases of someone who has been riding motorcycles in wind and sun and weather for most of his adult years. His hair is short and mostly gray, with a few darker strands left near the temples. He has a neatly trimmed beard, the kind you trim every week without making a fuss about it. His eyes are a soft blue, calm and slow, the kind of eyes that seem to be looking at everything and thinking about none of it in particular. He's wearing a leather riding jacket, dark brown, well broken in, with small cracks along the elbows where the leather has bent 1,000 times. The jacket is damp from the rain, but not soaked. Underneath it, he's wearing a gray flannel shirt, jeans, heavy black boots that have seen thousands of miles of pavement. His riding gloves are sitting neatly on the seat beside him, folded one on top of the other, as if he took the time to match them up the way he might have been doing for 40 years. His helmet is on the seat on the other side of him. A simple black helmet with no designs and no bright colors. The kind of helmet chosen by someone who doesn't need a helmet to say anything loud about who he is. On the table in front of him is a thick, white ceramic mug of coffee. Dolores brought it to him about half an hour ago. He's drunk, maybe a third of it. The rest sits in the mug, still warm, steam curling gently off the surface in slow ribbons that rise a few inches before disappearing into the air. Beside the mug is a small plate with a half-eaten sandwich on it. Grilled cheese with a single pickle on the side. He's been eating it the slow way, one small bite every few minutes. The kind of eating that isn't really about hunger. The kind of eating that's more about the quiet ritual of being in a warm place with warm food while the rain falls outside. His hands are resting loosely on the table. They're the hands of a man who has worked with them for most of his life. Not rough, not scarred, just lived in. His fingers are long and steady. There's a small thin scar across one of his knuckles that he probably doesn't even remember getting. A silver band on his right ring finger, old and worn smooth. The kind of ring you wear, not because it means anything specific anymore, but because it has been part of your hand for so long that taking it off would feel strange. He's looking out the window beside the booth. The window is slightly fogged at the edges, with small silver paths where raindrops are tracing their way down the outside of the glass. Through the window, he can see a section of the parking lot, the front end of his motorcycle under the wooden overhang, the edge of the road beyond, and the dark shapes of trees at the far side. The neon sign from the diner's front casts a soft pink glow onto the wet pavement, and the glow reflects gently in the puddles. He is watching the rain. He is not thinking about anything in particular. He is just watching. There is a kind of deep peace that visits a person who has been on the road all day and has finally come to a warm place to rest. The body releases a small amount of weight it didn't know it was carrying. The shoulders drop. The jaw loosens. The tiny tension behind the eyes, the tension that comes from watching the road for a long time, begins to dissolve. The man at the back booth is in that quiet state right now. His body is settled. His mind is soft. He's not worried about where he's going to sleep tonight. He's not worried about the rain. He's not worried about anything at all. He takes another slow sip of coffee. The mug is heavy and warm in his hands. He likes the weight of it. Light mugs make him feel like his coffee isn't real. Heavy mugs make him feel like someone took the time to choose them carefully. The way Dolores chose these mugs 20 years ago from a restaurant supply catalog. Because she knew that a proper diner deserves a proper mug. The man takes another small sip and sets the mug down gently on the table. The warmth of the coffee is spreading slowly through his chest. It's one of the small, good feelings in the world. Behind him, through the thin wall that separates the dining area from the kitchen, he can hear the faint sounds of the cook working. The soft scrape of a metal spatula on a flat-top grill, the muffled clink of plates being stacked, the low hum of an exhaust fan, the distant sound of a radio playing a different song than the jukebox. The cook keeps his own radio in the kitchen, tuned to a different country station, and the two songs bleed together faintly at the edge of hearing, creating a strange, gentle overlap of music that doesn't quite belong to either song. The man at the back booth turns his head slightly to look at the rest of the diner. From his seat, he has a full view of everything. The long counter with the chrome napkin dispensers, the old brass cash register, the pie warmer with its golden crusts visible under the dome, the 4 empty booths between him and the front window, the jukebox in its corner, glowing softly, the old man with the paperback book at the far end of the counter, still reading slowly, Dolores moving quietly behind the counter, wiping something, refilling something, doing the small, patient work of keeping a diner alive at 10 o'clock on a rainy night. He watches all of this, the way you might watch a slow painting. Nothing in the scene demands his attention. Nothing asks him to react. He's just allowing it to wash over him. This is the gift of a good diner at a good hour. You don't have to perform. You don't have to be interesting. You don't have to talk to anyone unless you want to. You can just sit in a booth and exist, and the diner will hold you while you do it. He reaches into the inside pocket of his leather jacket and pulls out a small black notebook. It's about the size of his palm, with a worn elastic band around it to keep it closed. The pages inside are mostly filled with notes in his small, square handwriting. Names of towns, mileage, gas prices, small sketches of roads, little reminders to himself about things he wants to remember. He unsnaps the elastic band and opens the notebook to the current page. He takes a short pencil out of the same pocket, and he writes, very slowly, a few lines about the day. He writes, rain started around 7, made it to Millie's by 10. Cook's coffee is good. Back booth is warm. Dolores is kind. He looks at the words for a moment. Then he adds, good night so far. He closes the notebook, snaps the elastic band back around it, puts it away inside his jacket pocket. This is something he's been doing for a long time. He keeps small notebooks like this in every jacket he owns, in every saddlebag on his bike, in every glove compartment of every car he has ever driven. He writes a few lines every night before he goes to sleep, wherever he is. Just small notes, small observations, the weather, the people he met, the food he ate, the roads he rode. Nothing dramatic, nothing beautiful, just a quiet, honest record of a day lived slowly. Over the years, those notebooks have become the most important possessions in his life. He has boxes of them at home, stacked carefully in an old wooden trunk. Sometimes on winter evenings, he takes out an old one and reads through it. And he remembers small moments he would have completely forgotten if he hadn't written them down. A waitress in Kansas who told him a joke, a sunrise over a lake in Minnesota, a dog that ran alongside his bike for a quarter mile in Wyoming. The small things, the things that make a life when you stack enough of them on top of each other. He takes another bite of the grilled cheese sandwich. Dolores makes it with good sharp cheddar and real butter on the bread. The bread is crisp on the outside, soft on the inside. The cheese is perfectly melted, just stretchy enough to pull a small thread when he lifts the sandwich from the plate. It's not a fancy sandwich. It's not supposed to be a fancy sandwich. It's supposed to be exactly what it is. A warm, simple piece of food for a tired traveler on a rainy night. And that's what it is. And that's exactly why it's one of the best sandwiches he has eaten in a month. He sets the sandwich down. He takes another sip of coffee. He looks out the window again. The rain is falling steadily. It hasn't slowed. It hasn't sped up. It's been doing the same thing for hours now, the way a good rain does when it plans to settle in for the whole night. He watches a single raindrop move down the window beside him, slowly, tracing a path through a line of older drops that have already fallen. The new drop catches the soft pink glow from the neon sign outside, and for a second, it looks almost like a small pink pearl rolling down the glass. Then it reaches the bottom of the window and disappears. He smiles very faintly. Just a small movement at the corner of his mouth. The kind of smile you smile when nothing in particular is funny, but something in the world is quietly, privately beautiful. Behind him, Dolores is making a fresh pot of coffee. He can hear the soft metallic sound of the filter basket being removed and the old one being emptied. He can hear the running water. He can hear the soft click of the switch and the low hum of the coffee maker starting to warm up. It's one of the oldest sounds in his life. His mother used to make coffee early every morning when he was a boy, and the sound of a coffee maker starting up has always meant home to him. He closes his eyes for just a second when he hears it. Not long, just a second, long enough to let the sound settle into him. When he opens his eyes again, Dolores is walking toward him with the old pot in her hand. She doesn't say anything. She just lifts the pot and angles it gently toward his cup. He slides the cup forward half an inch so she can pour more easily. The warm, dark coffee flows into the mug. Steam rises. He says, "Thank you," very softly, and she says, "Oh, you're welcome, honey," even more softly. And the whole exchange lasts about 6 seconds and feels like the kind of small human kindness that is the quiet engine of the whole world. She turns and walks back to the counter. He wraps both of his hands around the mug. The warmth moves up through his palms, through his fingers, into his wrists, into the lower parts of his forearms. He can feel the temperature of the ceramic changing from hot to warm as the heat transfers out of it and into him. He breathes in the smell of the coffee, dark, slightly smoky, a little bitter at the edges, the way diner coffee always is. Not the fancy kind, not the kind that has notes of chocolate or hints of citrus, just good honest American coffee, made in a metal pot, served in a heavy mug on a rainy Tuesday night in a warm little room by the side of a forgotten road. He takes a slow sip. He holds the warm liquid in his mouth for a moment. He swallows. He sets the mug down. Outside in the rain, a single small car drives past the diner. Its headlights sweep across the wet pavement of the parking lot. Its tires hiss through the thin sheen of water on the old road. The car doesn't slow down. It just keeps going. The sound of its engine fades gradually into the night as it continues on toward wherever it's going. The man at the back booth watches the headlights come and go. He wonders, for just a second, where that car is headed. Home, a hotel, a family, a job. He doesn't know. He'll never know. And it doesn't really matter. The car and its driver are just one more small piece of the quiet moving world outside the warm window of the diner. And the man at the back booth is content to let them pass without needing to know anything about them. He's been riding his motorcycle for most of his life. He got his first bike when he was 19 years old, a small Honda, used, bought for $300 for a man in the next town over. He taught himself to ride on back roads, falling a few times, learning to get up, learning that the ground was always patient, even when he wasn't. Over the years, he had other bikes, bigger, smaller, Japanese, American. He settled eventually on a cruiser that fit him the way some shoes fit some feet. The bike out under the wooden overhang tonight is the third cruiser he has owned. He has had it for almost 12 years. He knows every sound it makes. He knows how it feels in the cold and how it feels in the heat. He knows how it handles in rain. He knows exactly how long he can ride it before he needs to take a break. He wasn't planning to stop at Millie's diner tonight. He was planning to ride another 40 miles before stopping. But the rain got heavier about an hour ago, and then a little heavier. And then his gloves started to feel cold, and his fingers started to get stiff. And when he saw the soft pink neon of Millie's sign glowing through the rain at the edge of the road, something inside him said, "Yes, stop here, stop here." And he did. And he's glad he did. Some nights are meant to be ridden all the way through. Some nights are meant to be stopped The trick is learning to tell the difference, and then trust in yourself when you do. He looks down at his hands, resting on the warm mug. He thinks about how many miles these hands have held handlebars. He thinks about how many miles are left. He doesn't know. Nobody knows. And tonight, in this booth, with his coffee, with this rain falling outside, and this soft old music playing from the jukebox, and this kind woman working behind the counter, he finds that he doesn't need to know. The mileage left is a problem for future him. Tonight is only for right now. He picks up the sandwich again and takes another slow bite. The cheese is still warm. The bread is still crisp. The coffee is still perfect. He chews slowly, looking out of the window. Across the room, the old Wurlitzer jukebox finishes the Patsy Cline song and clicks softly. There's a small pause. Then another record drops down inside the machine and begins to play. This time it's an old Willie Nelson song from the 1970s, slow and gentle. A man singing softly about how he has always been somebody who had to be moving. A steel guitar plays the same slow notes it has been playing all night in the background of one song after another. A soft drum brushed by a wire brush keeps the barest time underneath. The song drifts across the diner and wraps itself around the man at the back booth like a warm blanket. He closes his eyes for just a moment. He lets the song and the sound of the rain and the warm coffee in his hands and the quiet, peaceful hum of the diner all settle around him at once. For a moment, he is not really thinking about anything. He is not a man in a booth. He is not a rider on a long trip. He is not anyone in particular. He is just a small, quiet presence in a warm, quiet room on a rainy, quiet night in a small, quiet corner of the world. And it is enough. It is more than enough. It is everything a person could ever really need. He opens his eyes slowly. He takes another sip of coffee. He looks at the clock on the wall above the jukebox. An old round clock with simple black numbers on a white face. The kind that hung in every classroom in America in 1960. The clock says it's 10:15. He watches the second hand move around the face once, slowly, patiently. Tick, tick, tick. The small red second hand making its slow round, the way it has been doing for decades in this diner, the way it will keep doing for decades more. There's something comforting about a clock that keeps time in a small, warm room while the rain falls outside. The world out there is always moving. The clock in here just turns slowly, making the same small circles, reminding everyone inside that some things don't change, even when everything else does. He looks back down at his coffee. He lifts the mug in both hands. He takes another slow sip. He sets it down. Time has a different weight in a place like this. A minute at Millie's diner on a rainy night is not the same as a minute anywhere else. At Millie's, a minute is longer. A minute is softer. A minute is something you can almost feel in your hands, like a small, smooth stone. Dolores has been wiping down the counter for 3 decades and hasn't run out of time. The man at the back booth has been drinking coffee for 40 minutes, and it feels like he's been here much longer, in a good way, like he's been here for hours, or days, or maybe always. The rain has been falling for years. The neon sign has been buzzing since before he was born. Everything in the diner moves at its own slow pace, and that pace has a quiet magic to it. Stay in the diner long enough, and the outside world begins to feel far away. not in a sad way, in a restful way. The kind of way that lets you breathe out completely for the first time in a long time. He breathes out. He takes another slow sip of coffee, and the rain keeps falling, and the jukebox keeps playing, and Dolores keeps wiping the counter in slow, easy circles, and the old man named Henry keeps reading his paperback book, and Carl, the cook, whom we haven't met yet, keeps working quietly in the small kitchen behind the wall. And somewhere inside the diner, inside this little warm-lit room at the edge of nowhere, there is a kind of quiet that is strong enough to hold all of you. A quiet that holds Dolores and Henry and Carl and the man at the back booth. A quiet that holds the neon sign and the chrome napkin dispensers and the lemon slices in the ceramic bowl and the bubbles rising in the Wurlitzer tubes. A quiet that holds the rain on the tin and roof and the slow song on the jukebox and the warm smell of coffee in the air. A quiet that holds you too, if you're listening. A quiet that doesn't mind that you're tired. A quiet that doesn't mind if you fall asleep. A quiet that has been here for a very long time and is in absolutely no hurry to go anywhere. The man at the back booth lifts his mug one more time, takes one more slow sip. The rain keeps falling. The night is long, and Millie's diner, warm and gentle and almost impossibly still, goes on being exactly what it has always been. There's a very small stretch of time, sometime after 10 at night, and before the night is fully settled, when a diner like this one reaches a kind of perfect balance. The early evening customers have already come and gone. The late-night travelers haven't started arriving yet. The dinner dishes have all been washed. The floor has been swept once already. The pies are warm. The coffee is fresh. The staff has nothing urgent to do. The few people who are here have all settled deep into whatever they came here to do. Read, eat, watch the rain, rest of their bones. And for a little while, the diner feels almost suspended, like a small warm bubble floating very slowly through the cold, wet night outside. This is one of those moments. In the corner, the old Wurlitzer jukebox from 1958 is doing what it has been doing for 6.5 decades. It is playing music softly into a mostly empty room. The bubble tubes that run along the sides of the machine are glowing their slow colors. Soft red on one side, soft orange on the other. The bubbles rising at a pace so patient that you can watch a single one travel from the bottom of the tube to the top. And by the time it reaches the top, your breathing has slowed down without you even noticing. The bubbles are not in a hurry. Nothing inside the jukebox is in a hurry. The jukebox has been doing this for so long that it has become, in its own way, one of the calmest objects in the whole building. Inside the machine, behind the thick, curved glass, the records are stacked on their little rack. Dozens of small black 45s, waiting their turn. When one finishes, a small mechanical arm lifts the needle, moves the record back to its slot, selects the next record that someone has chosen, drops it onto the turntable, and lowers the needle onto the edge. The whole process takes about 7 seconds and makes a series of small, soft clicks and whirs that are almost as relaxing as the music itself. The inside of the jukebox is visible through the glass, softly lit by a single yellow bulb, and if you stand close to it, you can watch the whole small ceremony happen every few minutes. The arm moving, the record rising, the new record settling onto the turntable, with a needle lowering itself with perfect, patient precision. It's the slowest machine in the diner, and the slowest machine is always the most peaceful one. Right now, the Willie Nelson song is ending. The last slow note of the steel guitar hangs in the air for a moment, fades softly, and then the song is done. The machine clicks. The little arm inside begins its slow choreography. A short silence, then the needle drops. Then a new song begins. Another slow one, another gentle one. A woman this time, singing with a soft voice, accompanied by a small, quiet band. The song is called something only people who love old country music would recognize, and she is singing about driving alone at night through a country she has loved all her life. Her voice is warm and close, as if she is singing the song directly into the diner from 60 years ago. The music drifts out of the jukebox and spreads slowly through the room. It weaves between the booths. It curls around the pendant lamps. It slides along the chrome trim of the counter. It settles into the corners of the diner like a soft cloud of sound. It reaches the ears of Dolores behind the counter, and the old man Henry reading his book, and the man in the back booth nursing his coffee, and it makes all three of them, in their separate, quiet ways, feel slightly more at home than they already felt. Behind the counter, the coffee machine finishes brewing a fresh pot. There's a small, gentle hiss of steam as the last of the water is pushed through the grounds. Then a small beep. Then silence. Dolores walks over to the machine and slides the fresh pot out and carries it to the warmer. She moves the old pot, the one she poured Henry's and the biker's coffee from earlier, and pours what's left of it into a small plastic container she keeps under the counter for her own later use. She's not going to waste good coffee. She has never been one to waste anything. Her mother raised her not to waste things, and her grandmother before her mother, and her great-grandmother before that. In a long line of women who understood that small things add up. She sets the fresh pot on the warmer. The smell of new coffee immediately begins to drift through the diner. It's a warmer, brighter smell than the smell of coffee that has been sitting for a while. It has the small, sharp edge of something that was just made. She breathes it in for a moment before she turns around. Fresh coffee in a warm diner on a rainy night is one of the small luxuries of human life, and Dolores has never taken it for granted. She takes her own mug, the one with the faded sunflower, and pours herself a fresh cup. She adds a splash of cream from the small refrigerated compartment. She takes a slow sip. She makes a small, satisfied sound, almost below hearing, and sets the mug down on the shelf next to the register. The rain on the windows has settled into a kind of rhythm now. Not a sudden pattern, just a steady, soft, even pouring that has become part of the furniture of the night. If you were to stand very still in the middle of the diner and to close your eyes and just listen, you would hear the rain on the windows, the rain on the tin roof, the rain on the wooden boards of the front porch, and the rain on the pavement outside the door. 4 different rain sounds, each with a slightly different texture, all playing together in a slow, improvised composition that no one will ever write down and no one will ever remember. And that is part of what makes it so beautiful. It is music that only exists for the few people who happen to be in this specific place at this specific time. and it will never be the same again, because tomorrow night's rain will have its own character, and the night after that will have another, and every rainy night is a unique, small symphony that is played once and then disappears forever. The windows of the diner are slightly fogged along the edges, where the warm air inside meets the cold air outside. The center of each window is still clear. Through the clear parts, you can see the rain coming down. The wet pavement of the parking lot, the soft pink neon glow, the dark shapes of the trees at the far edge of the property. The raindrops on the outside of the glass are catching the yellow light from the pendant lamps inside and turning into tiny amber beads, each one holding a little piece of the warm diner light before sliding slowly downward and disappearing. There is a particular kind of comfort that comes from being inside a warm room while rain falls outside. It's one of the oldest comforts humans know. Long before there were diners or neon signs or jukeboxes, there were caves and huts and small wooden shelters, and inside those shelters our ancestors sat with each other and listened to the rain hitting the roof and felt safe. That feeling of safety is built into us at a level deeper than thinking. When a rain falls outside a warm, dry room, something ancient in us understands that we are not out in the weather, that we are held, that we have made it to shelter for another night. It is the oldest relief in the world. And tonight, in Millie's diner, that relief is settling over every person in the building. Dolores walks along the counter one more time, checking things she already checked 10 minutes ago. She realigns a napkin dispenser. She moves a salt shaker half an inch to the left. She picks up a stray sugar packet that someone must have dropped earlier and tucks it back into the small ceramic bowl where the sugar packets are kept. She straightens the little menu cards in two of the booths, even though they are already straight. She does these things not because they need to be done, but because doing them is one of the small ways she tends the diner, the way a gardener tends a garden. Tending is not about fixing. Tending is about paying attention. She has been tending this diner for 31 years, and every small motion she makes now is a small act of attention that keeps the place alive. Henry, at the far end of the counter, turns another page in his paperback book. He is reading a detective novel from the 1970s, the kind of book where a quiet man wanders through a small town looking for a woman who may or may not have gone missing, and where the plot moves along like a slow train through a long valley. Henry likes books like this. He has read thousands of them over the years. He has a small shelf at home full of battered paperbacks, and he rotates through them every few months, reading each one as if for the first time, because his memory for the details of old novels has gotten a little softer as he has gotten older, and he has come to see that as a gift rather than a loss. Every book he has ever loved is a book he can read again someday and fall into as if for the first time. He is in no hurry to finish the book. He reads slowly on purpose. He has discovered, over many years, that the slower you read a good book, the more of it you get to keep. Fast reading is like fast eating. You don't taste much of it, and you don't really remember it afterward. Slow reading, on the other hand, is like slow eating. You notice the way a sentence sits. You notice the small rhythms of the paragraphs. You notice the choices the writer made. You become a companion to the writer instead of a customer of the writer. Henry's always preferred being a companion. He takes a small bite of the apple pie Dolores set in front of him earlier. The crust is flaky and buttery. The apples are soft and warm. A thin trickle of cinnamon syrup runs down the side of the slice, and he catches it with his fork before it reaches the plate. He chews slowly. He closes his eyes for just a second. When he opens them again, he is looking at the page of his book again, but he is not reading. He is just letting the taste of the pie and the quiet music and the warm lights all wash through him for a moment. It's a good moment, one of the small good moments of his life. He takes another small bite, smiles at nothing in particular, and goes back to reading. Behind the wall, in the kitchen, the cook has turned off the flat-top grill and is in the middle of cleaning it. You can hear the faint scrape of a metal spatula against the flat, hot surface, the soft hiss of a wet cloth being dragged across the steel, the clink of a small metal bucket being set down. The cook is a man named Carl, and we haven't really met him yet, but you can already hear him in the sounds he makes. His sounds are careful, unrushed, methodical. The sounds of a man who has been cleaning the same grill the same way for a very long time. He is finishing up the last of his dinner service duties. Later, if anyone orders hot food, he will fire up the grill again. For now, he is moving into the slow, late evening rhythm of the kitchen, which consists mostly of making sure the small things are clean and tidy and ready for whatever comes next. At the back booth, the man with the motorcycle jacket takes another slow sip of his coffee. He has been watching the rain for a while now. He has that soft, absent look that riders get when they have been on the road for a long time and have finally arrived somewhere peaceful. His body is leaning very slightly against the back of the booth. His shoulders have dropped. His hands are loose on the mug. He is exactly as still as a person can be without being asleep. And he is exactly as awake as a person needs to be to enjoy a quiet moment without it slipping away from them. Outside, at the edge of the property, a small animal moves briefly through the trees. Maybe a raccoon, maybe a deer. You can't see it clearly through the rain. But for a second, one of the dark shapes among the trees shifts, and a few leaves sway, and then everything goes still again. The animal, whatever it was, is going about its own quiet business in the rain. The rain doesn't bother it. The rain is part of its world. Animals don't mind the rain the way people do. Animals know that the rain is just the rain, and the rain will stop eventually, and the world will still be the world. Inside the diner, the jukebox has moved on to another song, a soft instrumental this time. Just piano and a brushed snare drum, and a single muted trumpet playing a slow melody from 1957. The song is sometimes called a ballad, but really it isn't about anything specific. It's just a piece of music that was recorded one afternoon by 4 or 5 session musicians in a studio in Nashville. And it was meant to be the kind of song that played quietly in the background of a late-night radio show. And now, decades later, it is playing in the background of a late-night diner, which is pretty close to the same thing. The trumpet in the song is so gentle that it sounds like a person humming very softly with their mouth closed. The piano plays simple chords, one, then another, each one sustained just long enough to let the previous one fade. The brushed drum keeps a slow, easy rhythm. Barely there. Just a whisper of metal on skin. There's nothing dramatic about the song. Nothing tries to impress anyone. The song is just what it is. A slow, calm piece of music meant to live in the background of quiet rooms and gentle moments. And tonight, in this diner, it is doing exactly what it was made to do. Dolores, standing behind the counter, lets out a small, slow breath. She isn't tired exactly. She isn't bored. She is just settling. Her body is finding the particular stillness it finds every night around this hour, when the dinner rush is long over and the deep night is not yet begun. It's a sweet in-between time for her, a time when the diner almost belongs to her, when the few customers who are here are customers. She knows how to read, when the only thing she really needs to do is wait patiently for the night to continue unfolding itself. She picks up her sunflower mug and takes a slow sip of her own coffee. She looks out the front window of the diner through the slow, silver lines of rain on the glass. The neon sign reflects in the window, reversed and backwards. The little motorcycle is visible under its wooden overhang. The puddles in the parking lot are rippling softly. Beyond the parking lot, a single pair of headlights appears on the distant road. The headlights come closer. They pass the diner without stopping. They continue on into the night. Dolores watches them come and go without any particular feeling about them. Cars come and go on this old road all night long. Most of them don't stop. A few of them do. It's all the same to her. The diner waits either way. The diner has always waited either way. The man in the back booth has his eyes half closed now. Not fully asleep, just slowing down. His breathing is shallow and even. His hands are still wrapped loosely around his mug, but the mug is cooler now, and the coffee in it is less than half. He is allowing himself to drift just a little. There's a particular kind of drifting that happens when you have been on the road all day, and you have finally found a warm place to sit, and you are safe, and nobody needs anything from you. It is not quite sleep, but it is close. It is the outskirts of sleep, the quiet country just before sleep begins. Some people never visit it because they don't let themselves. The man at the back booth has spent a lot of his life in that country, and he has grown to love it. Outside, the rain picks up for a brief minute, just a little. The tapping on the tin roof becomes slightly louder, slightly more insistent. The raindrops on the windows become a little fuller, a little heavier. A small gust of wind moves through the trees at the edge of the parking lot and sends a scatter of leaves floating down onto the wet ground. The motorcycle's tarp catches a small breeze and flutters once before settling back down. Then, just as quickly, the rain eases back to its former steady pace. The tapping becomes soft again. The drops thin back out. The wind dies. The trees go still. The whole brief moment of intensification passes like a small wave moving through calm water. The diner barely notices. The rhythm of the night resumes exactly as it was. The jukebox plays another soft instrumental. The clock above the jukebox ticks slowly. The coffee pot sits on the warmer, full and patient. The pies sit in their warmer, golden, and ready. The chrome napkin dispensers shine faintly under the pendant lamps. The checkered floor creaks somewhere near the kitchen door as Carl shifts his weight inside. The warm air from the gas heater moves very slowly around the room. Henry turns another page. the man in the back booth takes another quiet sip. Dolores walks to the end of the counter, looks out the small side window at the rain, and walks back. Time itself seems to be moving slower inside the diner than outside, as if the warm yellow light from the pendant lamps has a small slowing effect on the clock, as if the music from the jukebox holds each minute just a little bit longer before letting it go, as if the diner, having been here so long, has developed its own quiet gravity that pulls time into a softer shape inside its walls. This is one of the deep, quiet hours of the night, one of the hours when the world seems to remember that it doesn't have to keep spinning so fast, when the rain and the music and the warm light all combine to make a small pocket of stillness inside a moving world, when people who are lucky enough to be in places like this get to put down, for a little while, the weight they didn't even know they were carrying. The rain keeps falling, the jukebox plays on, the coffee keeps steaming, the small lemons in the ceramic bowl are bright yellow under the counter light. The neon sign outside keeps flickering faintly on its first letter. And somewhere in the slow, beautiful arithmetic of all these small details at once, there is a piece large enough to hold anyone who needs it. A piece that belongs to Dolores, and to Henry, and to the man at the back booth, and to Carl in the kitchen. A piece that belongs to the animals in the woods outside, and to the rain itself. A piece that belongs to every quiet corner of the world where small good places still exist and still stay open late into the night, waiting for travelers who need them. A piece that belongs to you too, if you want it. A piece that is yours, just for listening. Let yourself sink a little deeper into that piece. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw loosen. Let the sound of the rain and the sound of the old jukebox and the soft hum of the heater all blur together into one gentle cloud of sound that your mind can rest inside. There is nothing to do tonight. There is nowhere to go tonight. The diner is warm. The night is long. And the rain will go on falling, softly and patiently, for as long as you need it to. The night moves forward slowly, the way nights in places like this always do. The clock above the jukebox ticks past 10:30, then toward 11, then past 11. The hands move so slowly that if you stared at them, you could almost convince yourself they weren't moving at all. The rain outside continues its soft, patient falling. The jukebox plays one gentle song after another. Dolores refills Henry's coffee one more time without him asking. Carl, in the kitchen, reads a few pages of an old Western paperback he keeps on a shelf above the staff stool. And every once in a while, the little bell above the front door rings. That is one of the small, perfect sounds of a diner like this one. The bell above the door. It's a simple brass bell, about the size of a small lemon, hanging from a short leather strap attached to the top of the door frame. When anyone pushes the door open, the bell rings once. A clean, bright ring, clear and high. The kind of sound that cuts through whatever song is playing on the jukebox, and whatever thoughts are drifting through the minds of the people already inside. The bell announces every arrival and every departure. It has been hanging in that exact spot for decades, and it has rung thousands of times, and every single time it rings, Dolores looks up. She doesn't look up with any urgency. She just looks up, calmly, with the small, attentive curiosity of a person who has made it her job to know who walks into the diner. A lot of her job over the years has been knowing who needs a quiet booth and who needs a cup of coffee with conversation, knowing who is passing through and who might become a regular, knowing who is hungry and who is tired and who just needs a warm place to sit for a while until the rain eases up. The bell rings, and Dolores looks up, and in the small second between the ring and her greeting, she reads the person walking in and understands almost everything she needs to understand about them. A little after 11 o'clock, the bell rings for the first time in a while. Dolores looks up from the counter, where she has been idly flipping through a magazine someone left behind earlier in the evening. The front door swings open, letting in a soft burst of cold, wet air and the louder sound of the rain. A woman steps inside. She is probably in her 40s. She is carrying a small gray umbrella that is dripping with rainwater. She is wearing a long beige raincoat with the hood pulled up. And underneath the hood, you can see a short brown bob of hair and a pair of tired, kind eyes. She shakes the umbrella gently over the small rubber mat just inside the door, folding it carefully so she doesn't get water everywhere. Then she slides the umbrella into the small metal stand beside the door. A stand that has been there since the 1960s and still holds umbrellas for anyone who needs it. She pushes the hood of her raincoat back. She steps forward onto the checkered floor. She looks around the diner slowly, the way people look around an unfamiliar place when they are tired and want to make sure they have chosen the right one. Her eyes move over the empty booths, the long counter, the jukebox, the pie warmer, the man sitting at the back booth, the old man with the paperback book at the counter, and finally, Dolores, who is watching her with that calm, welcoming look. "Come on in, honey," Dolores says softly. "Sit anywhere you like." The woman smiles a small, grateful smile. She walks over to the second booth from the front, the one closest to the window where she can see the rain falling outside. She slides into the booth, pulling off her raincoat as she sits. Underneath the raincoat, she is wearing a simple dark green sweater and a pair of black slacks. She hangs the coat on the small metal hook on the end of the booth. She sets her small leather bag on the seat beside her. She lets out a very small sigh. Not a sad sigh, just the sigh of a tired person who has finally sat down in a warm place. Dolores gives her a moment to settle. Then she walks over slowly with a menu in one hand and a small glass of water in the other. She sets both of them down on the table, quietly, without rushing. "Pretty bad out there tonight," Dolores says, not as a complaint, just as an observation, the way you comment on the weather when you want to let someone know you see that they've had a long evening. "It is," the woman says. Her voice is soft and a little tired. "I've been driving for a couple of hours. Where are you coming from?" "My sister's place. Down south. I'm heading home to my apartment in the next town. Just wanted to stop somewhere warm for a minute." Dolores nods. "You came to the right place. You take your time, honey. Coffee?" "Please," the woman says. "That would be wonderful." Dolores walks back to the counter and returns a moment later with a thick white mug of coffee, steaming gently. She sets it in front of the woman and leaves the cream and sugar cup on the table. She says, "Holler if you need anything," and walks back to the counter. The woman wraps both hands around the warm mug. She closes her eyes for just a second. She breathes in the steam. She opens her eyes again and looks out the window at the rain. Her shoulders drop visibly. An inch, maybe? But a visible inch. And she lets out another small, soft sigh. The warm diner is doing its work on her already. The old wooden walls and the checkered floor and the soft yellow lights and the smell of coffee and pie and the sound of the slow jukebox are all combining in their quiet way to tell her that she is safe now, that she has arrived somewhere kind. She takes a sip of the coffee. It's perfect. She sets the mug down. She picks up the menu and begins to look at it slowly. She's not very hungry, but she thinks she might want something warm. A piece of pie, maybe, or some soup, or just a slice of toast. She reads the menu the way you read a book. You're not in a hurry to finish. Dolores leaves her alone. Dolores has a very specific skill, knowing exactly how much space to give someone. She can tell, within about 5 seconds of seeing a person walk through the door, whether they want to talk or whether they want to be left alone. This woman wants to be left alone, at least for now. Maybe later she will want a little bit of conversation. Some people come out of their quiet after a few minutes in a warm place. But for now, she wants to sit with her coffee and her menu and her tired thoughts and the rain outside the window, and Dolores respects that completely. The woman looks down at the menu. She looks up at the window. She looks down at the menu again. A slow, soft country song plays on the jukebox. Outside, the rain keeps falling. A few minutes later, the bell above the door rings again. Dolores looks up. This time, 2 people step inside. A young couple, probably in their late 20s. Both of them are wet from the rain. They don't have an umbrella, and they must have parked their car further away, because they look like they got caught in a real moment of heavy rain on their way from the car to the door. The young man has dark hair plastered to his forehead, and the young woman has a small blue scarf tied around her neck that is dripping water onto her shoulders. They both look a little startled by the rain, and a little relieved to be out of it, and a little shy about walking into a place they've never been to before. Come in, Dolores says warmly. Get yourself out of that weather." The couple smiles at her with small, grateful smiles. The young man lets out a small laugh. "We didn't think it was going to start pouring like that," he says. "It always pours when you least expect it," Dolores says. "Grab a booth, anywhere you like. I'll bring you some napkins to dry off." She walks behind the counter and pulls a stack of paper napkins from one of the dispensers and carries them over to the couple who have sat down in the third booth. The young woman thanks her warmly and immediately starts using the napkins to blot the water off her scarf and her hair. The young man does the same. They look at each other and laugh, softly, quietly. The laugh of 2 people who are in love with each other and who are finding the small absurdity of being caught in a downpour funny instead of annoying. There's a kind of warmth between them that you can see from across the room. The kind of warmth that tells you they have been together for a while and are probably going to be together for a long time. Dolores smiles at them from a small distance. She remembers being young like that. She and her husband used to run from car to door in rainstorms too, laughing the whole way in the first years of their marriage. The memory doesn't make her sad. It makes her warm. She is glad that new couples are still getting caught in rainstorms and laughing about it. As long as new couples are still doing that the world is still working the way it's supposed to. She brings the young couple 2 menus and 2 glasses of water. They order slowly after looking at the menu for a while. The young man gets a burger and fries. The young woman gets a grilled cheese sandwich, like the man at the back booth, and a bowl of Carl's vegetable soup. Dolores writes it down on her small order pad, smiles again, and walks the order back to the kitchen window, where she slides it onto the little metal wheel that hangs from the ceiling above the pass-through and gives it a soft spin. From the kitchen, you can hear Carl's small, contented as he reads the order. The flat-top grill, which he had turned down earlier, is still warm enough to be reactivated without much effort. He turns up the heat. A small hiss rises from the grill. The smell of warming oil begins to drift through the small square opening between the kitchen and the dining room. The young couple sit in their booth, talking softly. Their voices don't carry. You can just see them. The small way they lean toward each other across the table. The small smile on his face as she says something. The small laugh she gives as he replies. They are in their own small, quiet world inside the larger, quiet world of the diner. And the 2 worlds fit inside each other perfectly. The woman in the beige raincoat at the second booth orders a slice of apple pie and a bowl of soup. Dolores writes it down. The woman goes back to looking out the window, her face soft in the yellow pendant light. She looks a little less tired than she did 10 minutes ago. The coffee is doing its work. The warm room is doing its work. The rain outside, strangely, is also doing its work. Because rain outside a warm room has a way of making the warm room feel even warmer, even safer, even more like a place you've always wanted to be. Dolores walks back to the kitchen, pass-through, and slides the new orders onto the wheel. She hears Carl's small acknowledgement. She walks back to the counter and pours herself another half cup of coffee. At the back booth, the man with the leather jacket takes another slow sip of his own coffee. He's finished his grilled cheese sandwich now. The plate is clean, with only a small streak of melted cheese and a tiny piece of pickle left behind. He slides the plate to the edge of the table so Dolores can pick it up when she comes by. He's not ready to leave yet. He's still resting. He's still watching the rain. He's still letting the warmth of the diner work its way all the way through him. Henry, at the counter, turns another page in his paperback. The slice of pie Dolores gave him earlier is gone. His coffee cup is almost empty. He's not in a hurry either. He has been coming to this diner once or twice a week for the last 8 years, and he knows the rhythm of a night like this. He will sit for another half hour or so, finish his book for the night, and then walk slowly back to his small car in the parking lot and drive the 5 minutes back to his house. He has a small routine that fits inside the small routine of the diner. The 2 routines touch each other every few nights and fit together perfectly, the way good routines do. The bell over the door rings again. An old man steps in this time, tall and thin, with a long gray beard and an old canvas jacket and a flat cap pulled down over his head. He walks with a slight limp. He has been a regular at Millie's diner for almost 2 decades, and Dolores knows him by name the moment she sees him. "Ray," she says, smiling. "I was wondering if you'd come out tonight." "Couldn't help myself," Ray says. His voice is low and scratchy and warm. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd have a piece of your cherry pie and a cup of coffee before I try again. You know where to sit? Ray nods and walks to the third stool at the counter. His stool, the one he has been sitting on for years. He pulls off his cap and sets it on the counter beside him. Underneath the cap, his white hair sticks up in all directions in a friendly, rumpled way. He rubs one hand over his face and lets out a long, slow breath. Dolores pours him a cup of coffee without asking. She slides it in front of him. She walks over to the pie warmer, cuts a slice of cherry pie, puts it on a small white plate, and carries it back. She sets the plate in front of him. She gives him a small pat on the shoulder as she walks past. Ray nods his thanks. He picks up his fork and cuts into the pie slowly. Rainy one out there, he says, mostly to himself. Sure is, Dolores says from the other end of the counter. I don't mind it, Ray says. Rain helps me sleep. If I can't sleep at home, maybe I'll sleep here. Dolores smiles. You're welcome to try, Ray. Nobody'll bother you. Ray chuckles very softly. He takes a small bite of the cherry pie and closes his eyes briefly. He nods in slow approval. He takes a sip of his coffee. He looks out the window at the rain. He's not in a hurry. He has nowhere to be. He lives alone in a small house about 2 miles away. And when he can't sleep at night, he comes to Millie's for pie and coffee. And sometimes the coming alone is enough to fix whatever was keeping him awake. And sometimes he has to sit for an hour or more. But either way, Millie's holds him until he's ready to go back home. There's now a small, quiet population inside the diner. Dolores behind the counter. Henry at the end of the counter with his book. Ray at his stool. In the middle of the counter with his pie. The woman in the beige raincoat at the second booth. The young couple at the third booth. The man in the leather jacket at the back booth. And Carl, invisible but present, in the kitchen. 7 people in total, all of them doing something quiet, none of them bothering anyone else, all of them held by the same warm room and the same soft music and the same slow falling rain. Carl slides the young couple's food up to the pass-through window. He taps a small metal bell once, a different bell from the one over the front door. Smaller and softer, meant just to let Dolores know an order is ready. Dolores walks over and picks up the plates. She carries them to the third booth and sets them down with a small, warm smile. Here you go, sweethearts. You let me know if you need anything else. The young couple thanks her and begins to eat. The young woman dips her grilled cheese into her soup. The young man takes a long bite of his burger and lets out a small, satisfied sound. They are enjoying the food the way people enjoy food when they are in love and sitting in a warm place on a rainy night with someone they want to be near. A moment later, Carl rings the small bell again. Dolores picks up the woman's soup and pie and brings them to the second booth. The woman in the raincoat thanks her softly. She takes a slow spoonful of the soup. Her eyes close for a second. She makes a small sound. She says, "This is wonderful." Dolores smiles. Carl makes it himself, been making it for years. Well, please tell him it's wonderful. I will, honey. I will. Dolores walks back to the counter and leans through the pass-through. Carl, the lady in booth 2 says your soup is wonderful. From the kitchen, a slow, pleased voice answers. Well, that's kind of her. Ain't no kindness, it's the truth. Well then, she's got a good taste. Dolores chuckles and pulls back out of the window. She walks back along the counter, humming softly to herself. The small exchange was nothing really. 2 sentences. A compliment passed from a customer to a cook through a waitress. But small exchanges like this are part of the secret machinery of a diner. They are the small threads that hold the whole place together. They are the reason Carl keeps making soup, and Dolores keeps delivering it, and customers keep coming back to eat it. At the back booth, the man in the leather jacket watches all of this with quiet appreciation. He can see everything from where he sits. He can see the young couple leaning toward each other across their booth. He can see the woman in the raincoat eating her soup slowly with a small expression of comfort on her face. He can see Ray eating his cherry pie and staring out the window. He can see Henry at the end of the counter with his book. He can see Dolores moving along the counter like a slow, careful dancer, doing her small rounds, making sure everyone has what they need. He can see the jukebox glowing softly in its corner. He can see the rain on the windows. He can feel the warmth of the gas heater on his face. He has seen scenes like this a few times in his life. Not often. Most diners are not like this. Most diners are fluorescent lit and plastic and rushed. But every once in a while, on a long ride, you find a place that has somehow held on to what diners were supposed to be. A place where the food is simple and the coffee is hot and the waitress knows what she is doing and the cook cares about the soup. And the regulars come in for their own quiet reasons, and the whole building feels like a small, warm pocket of old-fashioned kindness in the middle of a world that has mostly forgotten how to be kind slowly. When he finds a place like this, he stays as long as he can. He always has. And tonight, Millie's Diner is one of those places, and he is in no hurry at all to leave. He reaches for his coffee mug. He wraps both hands around it. He takes another slow sip. The coffee is still warm. Dolores refilled it a few minutes ago, probably without him noticing. He smiles to himself. Of course she did. That's what she does. At the second booth, the woman in the beige raincoat has finished about half of her soup. She sets down her spoon and picks up her coffee and takes a slow sip. She is looking out the window at the rain, and her eyes have gotten soft and far away, the way eyes get when a person is thinking about something specific and private. Maybe she is thinking about her sister's house. Maybe she is thinking about her own empty apartment, waiting for her. Maybe she is thinking about something from her childhood that the rain reminded her of. Whatever it is, she is thinking about it slowly and gently, and the diner is giving her the space to do it. At the third booth, the young couple has finished eating and is now just sitting together, talking quietly. The young woman has her hand on top of the young man's hand on the table. He is stroking her thumb very slowly with his own thumb. They are looking at each other the way young couples look at each other when they know they are in the early chapter of something long and good. They are in no hurry either. Dolores has refilled their coffee cups once, and they have ordered a shared slice of apple pie that is sitting on a small plate between them with 2 forks. They take small bites. They laugh softly. They whisper things the rest of the diner doesn't hear. It is a beautiful private moment happening in a public place, and the public place is holding it gently. Ray, at the counter, has finished his cherry pie. His coffee cup is empty. His eyes are a little heavy now. The warm food in the warm room and the sound of the rain are all doing their work on him. Dolores walks over with the coffee pot and holds it over his cup. One more, Ray? Or are you heading home? Ray considers it. He looks at the window. He looks at his empty plate. He shakes his head slowly. Think I'll head home, he says. I feel sleepier already. Might just make it this time. Good, Dolores says softly. Drive safe. Ray slides some money across the counter, more than enough to cover the pie and the coffee, the way he always does. Dolores takes it and rings it up on the old brass register. The drawer pops open with its small, soft bell. She gives him his change. He waves it away. Keep it, he says, the way he always says. She smiles and tucks it into her apron pocket. He pulls on his cap. He steps down from the stool. He walks slowly toward the door, limping slightly. Dolores watches him the whole way. Before he opens the door, he turns and looks back at her. Thanks, Dolores, he says, in that low, scratchy voice. Come back whenever you need to, Ray. He nods. He pushes open the door. The little bell rings. A soft, wet gust of air comes in for just a second. Then the door swings shut behind him. Through the window, you can see Ray walking slowly across the wet parking lot toward an old blue sedan. He gets in. The headlights come on. The car starts with a soft cough. A moment later, it pulls slowly out of the parking lot and turns onto the old road, and the taillights get smaller and smaller until they disappear into the rainy dark. Dolores watches him go. Then she turns back to the counter. She picks up his empty plate and his empty coffee cup. She carries them to the small bin behind the counter, where the dirty dishes wait for Carl to come take them. She walks back to the counter and wipes down the spot where Ray had been sitting with a soft cloth. The diner is quiet again. Or, not quite quiet. The young couple is still talking softly. The jukebox is still playing. The rain is still falling on the roof, but a little quieter now that Ray has gone. The population of the diner shifts and changes as the hours pass. People arrive and stay for a while, and then leave, and the diner holds each of them gently while they're here, and lets each of them go gently when they are ready. Dolores walks to the front window and looks out at the rain one more time. The parking lot has 2 fewer cars now. Ray's old sedan is gone, and a small, compact car that must have belonged to another customer who left earlier without anyone really noticing is also gone. Just the pickup truck and the motorcycle and the young couple's small car remain. The rain keeps falling. The jukebox clicks softly as another record changes. A new song begins, a slow one, gentle and old, about a man driving home alone on a rainy highway and thinking about all the small things he is grateful for. It's a perfect song for this moment. It was practically written for a moment like this one. Dolores hums along quietly. She walks back to the counter. She picks up her own mug. She takes another slow sip, and the diner continues, quietly, patiently, holding all the people inside it in its warm yellow light, while the cold, wet night continues outside, and the whole world turns slowly, and the night goes deeper and deeper into itself. Sigo con la parte 7, el cierre lento del diner. The clock above the jukebox moves past midnight, and something very subtle changes inside Millie's diner. It's not something you could photograph. It's not something anyone inside the building could point to. But it's real. It's the kind of change that happens in certain places at certain hours, when the night has been going on long enough that it starts to settle into its own deepest shape. The air gets quieter, the lights seem a little softer, the sounds from the jukebox seem to come from a little farther away. Even the rain on the roof seems to slow down just a touch, as if the rain itself is beginning to consider the possibility of resting for a while. The young couple at the third booth have finished their shared slice of apple pie. The young man pays the bill at the counter. Dolores rings them up on the old brass register, and the little bell dings softly as the drawer pops open. The young man hands her a folded 20, and she gives him his change, and he leaves a few dollars on the table as a tip. And the young woman smiles at Dolores and says, "This was lovely. Thank you." Dolores smiles back, the warm, soft smile she has been giving customers for 31 years. "You two come back any time, sweethearts." The young couple pulls on their coats. The young woman wraps her still slightly damp blue scarf around her neck. The young man opens the door for her, and the little bell rings, and a small burst of cool, wet air comes in, and then they step out into the rain together. Through the front window, you can see them hurrying across the parking lot, laughing, holding hands. The young man's jacket pulled up over both of their heads as a makeshift shelter. They reach their small car. They get in. The headlights come on. A moment later, they pull slowly out of the parking lot and drive away down the old road, their taillights disappearing into the wet night. Dolores watches them go with a small, private smile. She hopes they make it home safely. She hopes they have many more rainy nights together. She hopes that sometime, many years from now, when they are old and gray and sitting together in a warm kitchen somewhere, one of them will say to the other, "Do you remember that little diner we stopped at once in the rain? The one with the jukebox?" And the other one will say, "Of course I remember it. I've never forgotten it." Dolores has sent out thousands of customers into the world over the years, and she has always quietly hoped for each of them that they would remember the diner warmly. Some of them do, some of them don't, but the hoping is part of the work, and the hoping is free. She turns away from the window and walks back to the counter. She picks up the young couple's dirty plates and the 2 empty mugs and the small tip money and carries everything back behind the counter. She tucks the tip into a small jar near the register. Her tip jar, a little ceramic cookie jar shaped like a cat, where she collects her tips each night to count at the end of her shift. The cat jar has been on that shelf for almost 15 years. Dolores painted it herself, poorly, in an art class she took once at the community center. She has always meant to repaint it, but has never gotten around to it. Now she likes it the way it is. She carries the dishes to the kitchen pass-through and sets them down quietly. Carl, inside the kitchen, sees them and gives her a small nod through the window. He is sitting on his wooden stool at the back of the kitchen now, his apron still on, his arms crossed loosely, his eyes slightly unfocused, his mind drifting wherever it drifts, when there is nothing urgent to do. He will wash those last dishes in a few minutes. For right now, he is resting. Dolores walks back out to the front of the counter. She refills her own sunflower mug with fresh coffee and takes a slow sip. She looks around the diner. It's quieter now than it has been all evening. The young couple is gone. Ray is gone. A few other customers who came and went earlier in the shift are long gone. What's left is the deep, quiet population of the late night. Henry at the counter with his book, the woman in the beige raincoat at the second booth, the man in the leather jacket at the back booth, and, invisible behind the wall, Carl in the kitchen. 4 people, plus her. 5 people, plus the diner itself, which always counts as its own presence. Dolores walks slowly down the counter, past Henry, whose book is nearly finished. He turns another page. His coffee cup is low. She refills it without asking. He looks up briefly and gives her a small, grateful nod. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. The refill is part of the long, slow conversation they have been having wordlessly for years. She walks back past the pie warmer. Most of the cherry pie is gone now, between Ray's slice earlier and 1 or 2 slices she doesn't remember serving to anyone. The apple pie has about half of it left. She thinks briefly about whether she will cut another slice for anyone, or whether the rest of it will go home with her to eat tomorrow morning with her own cup of coffee. She decides to wait and see. She walks over to the second booth and stops quietly beside the woman in the beige raincoat. The woman looks up with her tired, kind eyes. "How's the soup?" Dolores asks softly. "It was perfect. I can't finish it, though. I'm already getting full just from the coffee." "That's fine, honey. I'll take it away whenever you're ready. You doing all right?" The woman hesitates for just a second. Then she says, very quietly, "I'm just tired. It's been a long day. My sister isn't doing well, and I was visiting her, and now I'm driving home, and I just needed a place to sit for a while where nobody knew me." Dolores nods slowly. She doesn't ask what's wrong with the sister. She doesn't ask where the woman lives. She doesn't ask anything at all. She just reaches out and rests her hand gently on the woman's shoulder for about 2 seconds, and the weight and warmth of her hand says everything that needs to be said. "You take as long as you need, honey," she says softly. "We're open a while yet." The woman's eyes fill up very briefly with the beginning of tears, but the tears don't fall. She just nods quickly and wipes one eye with her knuckle and smiles a small, wobbly smile. "Thank you," she whispers. Dolores squeezes her shoulder one more time and walks back to the counter. Some of the most important moments in a diner are the smallest ones. A hand on a shoulder. A cup of coffee, refilled without being asked. A kind word from a woman in an apron to a woman in a raincoat who has been holding herself together for too many hours. These small moments are mostly invisible. They never make it into newspapers or books, but they are the real reason places like this one exist. They are the reason any small, warm place survives a cold, wet world. Dolores picks up her mug. She takes a slow sip. The coffee warms her all the way down. She looks around the diner one more time. Everything is exactly as it should be. She lets out a small, soft sigh. Not a tired sigh, just a sigh of a woman who is doing her work well and is at peace with her night. At the back booth, the man in the leather jacket has been watching the small exchange between Dolores and the woman in the raincoat. He didn't hear the words, but he saw the hand on the shoulder. He saw the wobbly smile. He saw Dolores walk away, and something inside him warms just a little bit more, the way a person warms when they witness a small act of kindness they weren't expecting. He knows, in his quiet way, that he has landed in a good place tonight. A place run by a good woman. A place that understands what it is for. He takes another slow sip of his own coffee and lets the feeling settle inside him. The rain outside has eased just a little. Not much. Just enough to notice. The tapping on the tin roof is slightly softer now. The drops slightly fewer. The wind, which had been completely absent earlier, has returned very gently, moving through the trees at the edge of the parking lot and sending a few wet leaves floating down onto the pavement. The neon sign above the door continues to flicker softly on its first letter. The puddles in the parking lot are still for the most part, except where the occasional raindrop lands and sends a small ring expanding outward. The jukebox plays another song. This one is the slowest song it has played all night. A ballad from the 1940s, recorded by a woman whose voice sounds like velvet folded around a warm stone. The song is about looking back on a long life and feeling grateful for it. There is no particular sadness in the song. There is only a kind of soft, wise contentment. The woman singing sounds like someone who has already made peace with everything she needs to make peace with. The song drifts out of the jukebox and spreads slowly through the diner, and it seems to blend perfectly with the sound of the rain and the warm yellow light and the small private thoughts of every person in the room. Dolores hums along softly. She knows this song. She has known it for most of her life. Her mother used to sing it sometimes, under her breath, while she worked in the kitchen. Dolores closes her eyes for just a second and lets the melody move through her. When she opens her eyes again, she is smiling a very small smile. It is a smile only she knows the reason for. At the end of the counter, Henry finishes the last page of his paperback novel. He closes the book slowly and sets it on the counter in front of him. He sits very still for a moment, the way people sit when they have just finished a good book and are not ready to let it go. His eyes are slightly unfocused. His mind is still inside the last paragraph. He is holding the ending in his head, turning it over slowly, letting it settle into his memory. After a moment, he picks up his coffee cup and takes a final slow sip. The cup is almost empty. He sets it down. He reaches into the pocket of his gray flannel shirt and pulls out a small leather wallet. He takes out a few bills and sets them on the counter beside his empty cup. More than enough for the coffee and the pie. Dolores will put some of it in the tip jar and the rest into the register. Henry picks up his book and tucks it under his arm. He stands slowly. His back gives a small, soft pop as he straightens up, and he winces very faintly, the way old men wince at their own bodies in small, private ways. He buttons his flannel shirt one more button. He walks slowly over toward the counter where Dolores is standing. That was a good one tonight, Dolores. The book? The book, and the pie, and the coffee, and the night. She smiled warmly. Thank you, Henry. Come back whenever. Oh, I will. You know I will. He turns and walks slowly toward the front door. He stops briefly in front of the jukebox on his way out and listens to the last few notes of the velvet-voiced ballad. He taps the top of the jukebox gently with 2 fingers, the way he does every time he leaves, a small farewell to the old Wurlitzer. Then he continues to the door. The little bell rings softly as he opens it. A soft, wet gust of air comes in for a moment, and then the door swings shut behind him, and Henry has gone out into the rainy night. Through the window, you can see him walking slowly across the parking lot to his car, an old sedan, not as old as Ray's, but old enough to have a little character. He gets in. A moment later, the headlights come on. The car pulls slowly out of the lot and turns onto the old road. The red taillights get smaller and smaller, and then they disappear entirely behind a curve in the road, and Henry is home, or at least on his way home, to whatever small, quiet life he has built for himself in whatever small, quiet house he lives in, probably alone, probably happy, probably reading for another hour or two in a comfortable chair before sleep takes him. Dolores watches him go. Then she walks slowly over to the end of the counter where he had been sitting. She picks up his empty coffee cup. She picks up the few bills he left. She carries everything back behind the counter. She puts the money into the register, ringing the little bell, and tucks 2 of the bills into her cat jar. She carries the cup to the kitchen, pass through. Carl takes it with a small nod and sets it in his dish bin. The diner population is down to 3 customers now. The woman in the beige raincoat at booth 2, the man in the leather jacket at the back booth, and Dolores herself behind the counter. Plus Carl, of course, in the kitchen, who is sitting on his wooden stool with a small, almost smile on his face, listening to the rain on the roof above the kitchen. 3 customers, 1 waitress, 1 cook. The smallest, quietest version of the diner tonight. The version that exists in the deep hours when most of the world is already asleep and only a few people are still moving through the night. At the back booth, the man in the leather jacket looks at his watch for the first time in hours. It's almost 12:30. He has been sitting in this booth for over 2 hours. He is surprised by how quickly the time has passed, and at the same time, he is surprised by how slowly it has passed. Time works strangely in places like this. 2 hours can feel like 20 minutes, and also like a whole quiet afternoon at the same time. He doesn't really understand it. He just knows it's true. He thinks about whether to order another cup of coffee, or whether it's time to get back on his bike and to ride the last few miles to wherever he's going to sleep tonight. He has a small motel in mind, about 40 miles further down the road. He could still make it. The rain has eased just enough that it wouldn't be miserable. His bike is reliable. He has ridden in worse weather than this many times. But there is something about this diner that is holding him. Something about Dolores. Something about the jukebox. Something about the woman in the raincoat at the second booth, whose small, quiet sorrow he witnessed from across the room without meaning to. Something about the way the diner itself has wrapped its warm yellow light around him for 2 hours and asked nothing from him in return. He is in no real hurry to leave. He decides, 1 more cup of coffee, then he'll go. He lifts his mug slightly and tilts it toward Dolores when he catches her eye. She nods once and picks up the pot from the warmer and walks over to his booth. She tips the pot. Warm, dark coffee flows into the mug. Steam rises. The smell of fresh coffee curls around him. 1 more, and then I think I'll head out, he says softly. You got a place to stay tonight? Small motel, about 40 miles down the road. Dolores nods thoughtfully. You be careful on the road. It's slick out there. I will. I promise. She smiles at him. The same warm, soft smile she has been giving customers all night, and walks back to the counter. He wraps both hands around the fresh mug. He takes a slow sip. He closes his eyes for a few seconds and just lets the warmth move through him. When he opens his eyes again, he looks around the diner one more time, memorizing it. Memorizing the checkered floor, the red vinyl booths, the chrome trim on the counter, the pie warmer with its last slices under glass, the old Wurlitzer jukebox glowing in its corner, the hand-painted "We're glad you're here" sign behind the counter, the calendar from the local feed store, the row of photographs of old regulars on the wall. He wants to remember all of it. He has a feeling he might want to come back here someday, and if he does, he wants to remember how it looked tonight, on this rainy Tuesday, in the deep quiet of the middle of the night, when it was at its most perfect. At the second booth, the woman in the beige raincoat is finishing her coffee. She has not touched the soup for the last several minutes, but the coffee has been a comfort. She is sitting more upright now than she was when she arrived. The warmth has worked its way through her. The crying she almost did earlier has quietly passed. She looks not exactly cheerful, but composed, settled, steadier. She reaches into her bag for her wallet. She pulls out a few bills and sets them on the table with a check Dolores left for her earlier. She slides out of the booth slowly. She pulls on her beige raincoat. She straightens it. She walks over to the counter and says, "Thank you. That was exactly what I needed." Dolores smiles warmly. "You take care of yourself, honey. Drive safe." "I will. Thank you. Really. Thank you." The woman walks to the door. She retrieves her small gray umbrella from the stand. She pauses for just a second at the door, looking back at the warm yellow room she is about to leave. She gives Dolores one more small, grateful smile. Then she opens the door. The bell rings. She steps out into the rain. Through the window, you can see her walking across the parking lot with her umbrella open above her. She reaches her car. A small sedan parked a few spaces away from the biker's motorcycle. She gets in. The headlights come on. The car idles for a moment while the defrost works on the windshield. Then she pulls slowly out of the parking lot and onto the old road and drives away. The tail lights shrink and disappear. Dolores watches her go. Then she walks to the second booth and picks up the dishes and the tip money. She carries everything back behind the counter. She puts the bills in the register. She tucks some of the money into the cat jar. The diner is down to 2 customers now. The man in the leather jacket at the back booth, and no one else. Just the biker and Dolores and Carl in the kitchen. A very small, very quiet version of the night. The jukebox clicks and starts another song. This one is an old instrumental, a slow piano piece from the 1950s, meant for late nights and empty rooms. The piano notes fall into the diner like slow raindrops, each one spreading outward in concentric circles of sound before fading. The man in the leather jacket finishes his coffee slowly. He takes the very last sip. He sets the mug down. He looks out the window at the rain one more time. He takes a deep breath. He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out his small black notebook. He writes a few final lines for the night. Made it to Millie's diner on a rainy Tuesday. Stayed 3 hours. Dolores was kind. Carl makes good soup. Saw a young couple in love and a woman who was tired. Everyone was held gently. Good night. Going to try for the motel down the road. He closes the notebook. He puts it back in his jacket pocket. He reaches for his gloves on the seat beside him. He pulls them on slowly. He picks up his helmet from the other seat. He slides out of the booth and stands up for the first time in what feels like a very long time. His body creaks softly. He stretches his arms up over his head and lets them down. His back gives a small pop. He walks slowly toward the counter, holding his helmet in one hand. Dolores looks up and smiles. Heading out? Heading out. He reaches into his jeans pocket and pulls out a folded 20. He slides it across the counter. For the coffee, the sandwich, and the coffee, and the coffee, and the coffee. Dolores laughs softly. You don't owe me that much, honey. Let me get you some change. No change. The rest is for you and Carl. Tell him the grilled cheese was the best I've had in a year. Dolores smiles, a slow, warm smile. I'll tell him. He'll be pleased. Thank you, Dolores. You run a good place. You're welcome anytime. What's your name, honey, if you don't mind me asking? He pauses for just a second. Then he tells her. Just his first name. A simple name. Old-fashioned. The kind of name that fits a man in a leather jacket on a rainy Tuesday night. She nods and says, Well then, you're welcome back any time. I'll remember you. Thank you. He turns and walks toward the door. At the jukebox, he pauses for a second. He reaches out and touches the top of the old Wurlitzer with 2 fingers, the same way Henry did when he left earlier. A small, silent thank you to the machine that has been playing music into his ears for 2 hours. Then he continues to the door. He pushes the door open. The little bell rings. A soft, wet gust of air comes in, carrying the smell of wet pavement and distant trees in the clean, raw night. He steps out onto the small wooden porch and pulls the door shut gently behind him. The bell rings one last time. Dolores watches him through the window. He walks across the wet parking lot to his motorcycle under the wooden overhang. He puts on his helmet. He unties the tarp from the seat and folds it carefully and tucks it into his saddlebag. He swings his leg over the bike. He turns the key. The engine starts on the first try. The familiar deep rumble rolling softly through the rain. He sits for a moment, letting the bike warm up. He looks at the diner one more time through the windshield of his helmet. He raises one hand in a small, silent wave toward the front window, in case Dolores is still watching. She is still watching, and she waves back, even though he probably can't see her very well through the rain. Then he rolls slowly out from under the overhang, out across the parking lot, and onto the old road. The taillight of his motorcycle glows red in the rain as he pulls away. Within a minute, he is gone, swallowed by the rainy dark. Dolores stands at the window for a long moment after he is gone. The diner is silent now, except for the jukebox and the rain and the hum of the gas heater. The last customer has gone. She is alone with Carl, and the building, and the night. She walks slowly back to the counter. She picks up the biker's empty mug and his empty plate and the $20 bill. She carries everything back behind the counter. She pauses for a moment, looking at the 20. A generous tip. A real tip. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. She smiles softly and folds the bill and tucks some of it into the cat jar and some of it into the register. She walks over to the kitchen pass-through. Carl? Yeah? The man at the back booth said your grilled cheese was the best he's had in a year. Carl is quiet for a second. Then, from the kitchen, in his slow, warm voice, Well now, that's something. I thought you'd want to know. Thank you, Dolores. You're welcome, Carl. She walks back to the counter. She picks up her own mug and refills it with the last of the coffee. She takes a slow sip. She looks around the empty dining room. 4 red booths, all empty. 15 counter stools, all empty. The old brass register, the pie warmer with its last half slice of apple pie, the Wurlitzer jukebox still glowing softly in its corner, the hand-painted sign behind the counter, the rain on the windows, the pendant lamps casting their warm yellow light. This is her favorite time of night. The deep, late hour when the diner is empty and the rain is falling and the jukebox is playing for no one but her. The hour that belongs only to her and Carl and the building itself. The hour when she can walk the length of the diner and feel each board under her feet and know that this small place, this small, warm yellow room in the middle of a cold, wet night is, in some quiet way, hers. She doesn't own the diner. The diner was named after a woman named Millie, who owned it for decades, and then passed it on to another owner and then another. But in a deeper way, the diner belongs to Dolores, because Dolores has been the one keeping it alive for 31 years, one rainy night at a time, one kind gesture at a time, one cup of coffee at a time. She walks slowly over to the jukebox. She stands in front of it for a moment and watches the bubble tubes, the red bubbles on one side, the orange bubbles on the other, rising slowly, patiently, forever, the way they have been rising since 1958. She puts her hand gently on the top of the machine. The old Wurlitzer hums faintly under her palm. "Thank you," she whispers, to the jukebox, to the room, to the night, to the rain, to the decades that have passed, to every stranger who has walked through the door, and every old friend who has sat at the counter, and every kind word that has ever been spoken inside these walls. The jukebox plays its last song of the night, a slow, soft instrumental, a piano and a steel guitar, and a whisper of brushed drum. The song fills the empty diner for a few minutes, and then, gently, it ends. The jukebox clicks softly. The machinery inside moves the record back into its slot. There is no new song this time. Dolores has not added another coin. The diner is quiet, just the rain on the roof, just the hum of the gas heater, just the soft tick of the clock above the jukebox, just the very faint sound of Carl moving in the kitchen, washing the last of the dishes. Dolores walks slowly around the diner one more time. She wipes down each booth table with a soft cloth. She straightens each set of salt and pepper shakers. She picks up a few stray sugar packets. She adjusts one of the chrome napkin dispensers. She does all of this unhurriedly, the way a woman tends a garden at the end of a long summer day. When she has finished her small rounds, she returns to the counter. She pours the last of the coffee from the pot into her sunflower mug. She walks to the front door. She turns the little hand-lettered sign that hangs inside the window from open to closed. She looks out at the parking lot one more time. It is empty now except for her own car and Carl's truck, parked at the far edge of the lot. She walks back to the counter. She stands there for a long moment, holding her mug, looking around the diner, listening to the rain. In a few minutes, she will turn off most of the lights. She will leave only the small nightlight above the counter, which glows softly all night long to let travelers on the old road know that a warm place is waiting here, even when the diner is closed. She will say goodnight to Carl. They will walk out the back door together. She will lock the door behind her. They will each walk to their own vehicles through the rain. They will wave to each other. They will drive home. And tomorrow morning at dawn, Carl will be back first. He will unlock the back door. He will turn on the lights. He will start the grill. He will brew the first pot of coffee of the day. And a little while later, Dolores will arrive, and she will put on her white apron over her pale blue dress, and she will turn the sign in the window from closed back to open, and the diner will begin another day, another slow, beautiful day of serving coffee and pie and soup and grilled cheese to whoever comes through the door. But that is tomorrow. Tonight is still tonight. And tonight is almost over, but not quite. Dolores takes one last slow sip of her coffee. She sets the mug down on the counter. She closes her eyes for just a second. She listens to the rain. The rain is gentle now, almost whispering. The tin roof is tapping out the softest version of its long song. The trees at the edge of the property are still and dark. The puddles in the parking lot are catching the soft pink glow of the neon sign and holding it like small, quiet mirrors. The old road stretches out into the rainy dark in both directions, empty, waiting for whoever will come next. The diner is at peace. Dolores is at peace. Carl is at peace. And the whole small, warm yellow room, with its checkered floor and its red booths and its chrome counter and its old jukebox and its soft pendant lamps, breathes slowly in and slowly out, the way good old places breathe at the end of a long, rainy Tuesday night. The rain keeps falling. The night is long. And somewhere out there, in all the small, quiet corners of the world, in all the small, warm-lit rooms with all the tired, kind people inside them, the same slow peace is settling over everything at once. You are held tonight. You are safe tonight. You are warm tonight. Nothing in the whole world is asking anything from you right now. Let the rain keep falling outside the diner in your mind. Let the soft yellow lights stay on a little longer. Let the old jukebox play one more quiet song in the empty room. Let Dolores stand behind the counter, smiling her small, private smile. Let Carl sit in the kitchen, listening to the rain on the tin roof. Let the pickup truck and the motorcycle be long gone, and the customers all safely home. Let the diner hold its quiet inside your mind for as long as you need it to. You have done enough today. You have worried enough today. You have carried enough today. Now is the time for resting. Now is the time for letting go. Now is the time for sleeping softly and deeply while the rain falls gently on the roof of a small diner on a forgotten road in a small warm corner of the world where kindness still exists and soup is still made with care and coffee is still poured without being asked and every tired traveler is still welcomed in from the cold. Good night. Sleep well. The rain will keep falling for as long as you need it to, and Millie's diner will always be here, warm and yellow lit, and softly humming in the quiet place inside you, where you go when you need to rest. Good night now. Good night.